Trump mostly focuses on economy rather than health for minority groups hit hardest by COVID-19. Washington President Donald Trump underscored economic recovery several times during a listening session with African Americans Thursday. He brought up efforts on coronavirus testing, protective equipment distribution and ventilator production in his opening remarks. But he didn't specifically address what the administration would be doing to protect the health of minority communities, which have been some of the hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic that has killed more than 94,000 Americans so far. Before the virus, African American unemployment reached its lowest level in history and African American poverty reached its lowest level in history. Then we had the plague flow in from China, and now we're doing it again, Trump said during the listening session at a Ford plant in Michigan, where he sat in front of a banner that read, "Transition to Greatness." Trump also touted economic projections and said that, though the economy experienced a downturn due to the virus, now, I'm going to do it again. During this session, the president briefly discussed health-related coronavirus efforts the administration has undertaken, including the dedicating funding toward community health care centers, which frequently treat underserved communities, authorized by Congress through the CARES Act. And participants at the table brought up disparities in the health outcomes of African Americans versus other groups infected with coronavirus. But in discussions with minority groups this week, the president has largely opted to focus on economic recovery from the coronavirus, rather than addressing the racial and ethnic disparities among those who have died from the disease. During a call Wednesday with Hispanic groups, the White House coronavirus coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx, spoke for 5 minutes about the administration's efforts to address minority communities, sources on the call said. But throughout the call, Trump focused mainly on an economic bounce back, telling participants to get Latinos out to vote on November 3 or risk a depression. Before the COVID-19 plague disrupted our roaring economy, the unemployment rate for Hispanic Americans dropped to its lowest level ever recorded. Furthermore, Hispanic Americans saw the lowest poverty rates in history under President Trump's leadership, Anthony Cruz, a White House spokesperson, told CNN in a statement issued Thursday. Health and economic concerns the health and financial well-being of Hispanics and African Americans have been disproportionately impacted by the coronavirus. Hispanic unemployment sits at nearly 19%, an all-time high, and higher than any other demographic. Black unemployment isn't far behind, at nearly 17%. Hispanics are also more likely to have taken a pay cut due to the pandemic, according to the Pew Research Center, and they're more likely to work in occupations that prevent them from teleworking. Both minority groups are also more likely to have pre-existing conditions, such as asthma and diabetes, which would worsen the health outcomes for someone infected by coronavirus. African Americans are dying at disproportionately higher rates from coronavirus compared to all other ethnicities. And in some places, like Chicago, New York City and California, Latinos are contracting coronavirus or dying from it at a higher rate than the rest of their population. The White House Coronavirus Task Force acknowledged the health disparity last month. While Trump is laser-focused on the economic impact of the coronavirus with minority groups, some administration officials have said they're also addressing issues related to the health, education and housing of minority groups and underserved communities. Administration officials have said they have been working to improve tracking the racial makeup of COVID-19 patients. And the president told Fox News earlier this month that the administration plans to produce a report on the virus's impact on minority communities soon. Counsel at work? A month ago, the president specifically tasked an existing counsel at the White House with making coronavirus-related recommendations for underserved communities. It was originally tasked with implementing the federal government's Opportunity Zones program, which permits tax relief for development in designated low-income areas around the country. A White House official said the Opportunity and Revitalization Council was asked to focus on both the health and economic impacts COVID-19 has had on historically underserved communities. But so far, the council has not publicly announced any initiatives. It's led by Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson. We're looking at their physical health, and we're also looking at their economic health. And we're looking at the things that really caused them to have more problems than the general population, Carson said during Thursday's listening session. Yes, there may be more hypertension, there may be more diabetes, there may be more obesity and asthma, but we also have to ask ourselves, why are there more of those things? And we have to address those issues. Jaron Smith, a domestic policy advisor at the White House, said on a call Wednesday with Black entrepreneurs that what the council is currently working on is improving the more access to capital, more access to health care, more access to affordable housing, as well as how we best weather with our children, distant learning and having connectivity in the household. Smith also said the council brought recommendations to the president this week and plans to make more next week. CNN's Harmeet Kaur contributed to this report. Click subscribe to receive the latest news.